What up, everyone? This is Mr. Lord Dr. Professor Dark Joker here with another edition of Traditional Fans with Opinions, where I'll give my reviews for whoever I watched, read, or played today. And who are traditional fans with opinions? That is myself, and that is you, the viewers. With all that being said, on with the reviews. Arknights Season 3, Episode 5. So in this one, So Rosmontis remembers a lot of her past, some of the losses she's had, and basically there's a lot. Basically, she wants revenge. She's very pissed off. She starts destroying stuff, and we see a flashback to the Babel side story, just to build upon the lore, and W starts facing some consequences for her actions. Basically, there's a bunch of stuff going on. Yeah. So yeah, basically, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in this, and looks like we're about to get some more stuff with Tala. So yeah, I overall really like this episode. Looking forward to the next one. Tougen Anki, episode 4. So in this one, um, Shiki destroys that giant blood demon thing that um Biobugara summoned accidentally summons, and she passes out. Then Shiki just gets injured, uses a bunch of blood, so he's kind of down for the count. So Kogasaki fights Mudano, and basically he's losing. Shiki's able to recover some and tries to help out. Basically after a little bit, Ko- Kogasaki's tied up to the tree, with Biobagara being injured, passed out. Mudino calls for infirmary for Biobagara. Basically, he's yeah, you're about to fail. So Shiki starts trying to fight, and so Mudino shows one of the balls that says, "Hey, I got this one. You can either fight me for this one or go get your own." So Shiki runs. Then while Mudino starts chasing, Shiki runs back, frees Kogasaki, and they team up to get the ball from Mudino. And Shiki tells Kogasaki take the ball and go to the finish line, whatever. Mudino's you do realize that only one person can pass, right? Shiki's crap, I forgot. And Kogasaki, not wanting to owe Shiki anything, runs back, gives him the ball, so he's look, I'd rather be expelled than deal with this on my own. Because real that Kogasaki's father is a Momotaro who killed his entire family, I guess, for being Oni. Yeah. So he's look, I'd rather be expelled, fight the Momotaro on my own, than you have to owe you anything. So yeah, but then this emergency the messenger appears, so there's an urgent message for backup at the Oni agency branch in Kyoto. So basically, Mudino brings the entire class, at least that's available, because Byobagar is injured, can't fight. So everyone else is taken to Kyoto. So there's and no one's expelled right now. So basically, the whole class is going there to do support work, while Mudino is probably going to fight the Momotaro. So we should see him fight, which should be awesome. Now, given the fact that this is an anime, this is a TV show, odds are something's going to go wrong and all the students are going to have to fight. I'm guessing that's the case. It's an anime. Anytime you have a combat school thing, yeah, students are told they're not supposed to fight. Guess what? They're gonna fight. That is just a trope. With My Hero Academia happen a lot. Now in manga, if Marshall King has that kind of rule, that rule's probably gonna get broken. But My Hero very infamously, or very famously, yeah, the rule of students not supposed to fight villains, that gets broken a lot. Deku breaks it all the time. So yeah, it's probably gonna happen this one in Tougen Anki. Students are probably gonna fight, so we're probably gonna see a lot more of like the students like powers. So that should be really interesting. So yeah, I really like this episode. Looking forward to the next one. She rides shotgun. So in this one, this like 9-year-old girl named Polly is picked up by her father Nate, who had just gotten out of prison, like from school. So and he had like hot wire the car. Basically, he had her suitcase, and I guess he had like her stepfather's jacket. So he's not explaining what's basically they have to go on the run. And Polly sees some news footage of basically there was a double homicide with her mother and like basically Nate's ex-wife, ex-girlfriend, however it is, and Polly's mother and stepfather were murdered, and Nate's been framed for it. Basically, there's like the Aryan Brotherhood, some group, like basically took in a bunch of meth, like in what one detective says is the meth lab to end all meth labs. Basically, like like they do a lot of drug dealing, and Nate pissed them off by killing one of their members, and yeah, and basically he has like a green light on him, so basically like basically a shoot to kill order. So like, and this is a group that has like a bunch of cops in their pockets. So Nate starts, he takes Polly with him, and they start they go deal with different associates and try, so there's like a stick 'em up at like a grocery store, at like a convenience store, where Nate gets shot by a concerned citizen. Yeah, and then yeah, so then like they come across like this cop of it. There's detective who like is trying to take down this like basically this drug cartel, like basically that group, like the Aryan Brotherhood, whatever. But everyone, no one's because like basically this group is so powerful, like you're like marked for death if you try to go after them. So he goes to the town where Nate and Polly are. Turns out he learns that the detective, like the head sheriff of that town, like Hauser, his name, is the head of the cart of that drug group. So and like basically a bunch of the cops are members of that in that town. They're also in that group. So yeah, so then once he learns that, he makes a deal with Nate for Nate to kill Hauser and in exchange for basically his freedom with like fake passports and everything. So when Nate leaves, the detective's partner arrives and basically tries to kill the detective. Detective kills his old partner, and so he calls it in because he was reluctant to call it in because he didn't know who to trust. So and that seems to be the only reason he takes Polly with him to the shootout because he doesn't know who to trust, which I can kind of understand. If like it's like we have no choice. So at the shootout, so Nate gets captured because I guess like detective's car was bugged or whatever. So they basically the Aryan brother knew about the like Hauser knew about the attack. So Nate's captured and tortured, and like all a bunch of the cops arrive, like SWAT and all that. And so there's like a big shootout. So Polly gets out of like detective's car, frees Nate. So Nate like gets fights Hauser briefly, but gets like injured. And like, so Hauser takes Polly hostage. So the cops are like, they put their weapons down. I'm pretty sure one of them probably had a good enough shot to just take him out without injuring Polly. Pretty sure someone has shot. Now Nate grabs like this nailer and stabs Hauser with it. But then Hauser like points a gun at the cops. Then the detective's like, "Hey, open fire!" So like, Nate and Hauser all get shot by the cops, and both of them die. And Polly's then sent into foster care, and that's how it ends. So here's what I say: Taron Egerton was awesome. Like he was awesome in this. As far as the story, the beginning, like the first half, I was like was decent. Then the second half was like, what the frick? Second half's not that great. Basically, yeah, the fact that Nate died, no, that shouldn't be surprising. You know, basically, I would have liked a lot more setup for the picking up at the school, like a lot more setup with like the villains and the whole like chase stuff. Like it was just random. It was like, yeah, we're on. So like if there was like more build, I think there should have been more build up in the beginning to kind of lead up to it. Show like the mother and stepfather, actually, with Polly, before they get killed. Show like Nate getting out of prison, trying to adjust, and all whatever happened that led up to like the chase, like maybe some flashbacks, or whatever. And yeah, so and they'll set, and the second half is kind of all over the place. Some scenes could probably been shortened down, and, which would in order with adding in the build up, with adding the build up, then shortening some scenes, then probably it could have stayed like around 2 hours. Overall, I thought this was an okay movie. It's not necessarily good, not necessarily bad, but I would say it's okay. The Naked Gun, 2025. So in this one, we start out with Lieutenant Frank Drebin Jr. stopping this bank robbery. And so all the robbers, basically, they didn't know each other. They were all hired. They were all allowed to keep the money, but Smith says something else was the target. And shown in the beginning, this object called the plot device, yes, that's the actual name, is stolen from this like why like the bot like the boxes, like because a lot of people in the banks, they have their own little like PO box type thing. And then so now do some of the damage, do some, I guess, Frank's actions. He's taken off the case. You know, by detective by like Chief Davis. So Chief Davis of police squad takes Drummond off. Yeah. And then basically, and after that, Frank and his partner, Captain Ed Hawkins Jr., are moved to like collision, like crashes instead of like bank robberies. So they detect, so they, you know, then, try to solve this case regarding a car that drove off, this electric car that drove off the like off a cliff to river. The uh so the victim is Simon Davenport. He's dead, like he died. Basically, it's ruled as suicide. Now, back at headquarters, Simon's sister, Beth, played by Pamela Anderson, goes there and tells Frank that she believes he was murdered, that Simon was murdered. So Frank decides to look into it. Like basically, yeah. So when there's some ties to like the bank robbery. So here's how he learns his tie to bank robbery. It's a full process. So Frank did so he's asked for some advice on the bank robberies by one of the new like someone who's I guess who's on because since Frank had done it for a while, he's asked about advice. And then Frank goes to like I guess Eden Tech, which is owned by Richard Kane. So Eden Tech was where Simon worked. So yeah, so Frank meets Kane, and basically they're both kind of like old souls, so there's still differences in how they see the world. But like yeah, so after that, basically like Frank interrogates one of the bank robbers who was in prison for manslaughter previously, or as Frank calls it, man's laughter. Must have been a hell of a joke. And then yeah, that's kind of a joke. That's a joke they make in the movie. And then yeah, so which leads to a whole funny sequence of them watching I guess police cam footage of Frank eating a chili dog, having to go to the bathroom and all that. And everyone's watching. It's so funny. And then yeah, so after that, with it being once they learned that the bot so like the PO box or that was robbed or the plot device stolen was signed Davenport. So the car crash and the bank robbery are connected. So yeah, so Frank goes into like Payne's club where he sees Beth trying to infiltrate it, and so Beth distracts Kane while Frank like gets some intel about this one investigative journalist who Simon was talking to. I guess spill the beans, and then basically due to some of the damage done during the whole fight there, Frank's given a 2 week suspension by Davis. So then after talking to Beth a little bit after bonding with Beth at his apartment, they're in a funny scene with basically copies Austin Powers, where so basically Kane's like second in command like uses like infrared to like detect try to spy after the curtain's closed to spy on Beth and Frank and the dog. And what he thinks he sees is not what actually happens. So like there's like a thing where basically Beth is scrubbing like easily scrubbing the an oven because we're trying to put a turkey in, but it looks like she's to someone looking at infrared on the angle at a certain angle, it looks like she's jerking them off. Like there's some funny stuff where it's like, what the frick? Like it is like if you've seen Austin Powers, that is the exact joke they do with the curtain. So then during the 2 weeks, Frank and Beth go like they spend 2 weeks at like this cabin. They bond. They do some satanic ritual or something. I don't know, they summon like a spirit or something that inhabits a snowman who basically they form a throuple with the snowman. Yep. So there's a whole bit, but then it's like it becomes just Frank and Beth, so the snowman gets angry, tries to kill them. But then Beth like kills the snowman, whose body then falls into the hot tub. Yeah, that whole bit was so funny. I was like, wait, are we spending 5 minutes on this? What the frick? I was just laughing the whole time. I mean, this is very, I mean, it's very much like the old movies and the kind of absurd humor we get in slapstick, absurd slapstick humor. So yeah, so then he goes to the journalist, that one journalist's apartment, finds him dead, and he's tricked into like basically putting his fingerprints on the murder weapon and recording a confession to the murder. So he's basically framed for it. So he runs away, gets in his car, which it's a new car that was gifted by Kane to Police Squad. But Kane hacked, like, who can control the car remotely, tries to drive it off a cliff. During the whole story, the whole cover story is that Frank went insane after suspension, killed a journalist, and drove himself off a cliff. So Frank realized that's how, like, Simon was killed. That Kane basically just drove it off the cliff, so it was murder. But Frank's able to escape the car, and then like so he's like on the run, being accused of murder. So eventually he captures the Kane's second in command, gets a confession out of him about what the plan is, which is to attack like I believe it was the WWFC, basically like a MMA match. To attack like an MMA type match. And like basically, yeah, so and it's revealed that what Kane's plan, like eventually what Kane's plan is like to like use this technology that Simon developed to like make people go crazy and like start wiping each other out. While Kane and those who are inside what he calls arcs will just live there until the dust settles, and the survivors will replenish the earth, basically as like a more, I guess, pure earth, like less burdened by like, a lot of problems you see in current society. Yeah. So then Frank and Hawken go to the they go to the MMA fight and sneak in, but like there's a whole bit where the whole thing's on live television, but Frank's pants come off so everyone sees like his dick and butt. Now it's blurred out, but Frank gets the plot device. Beth tries to infiltrate Kane's like suite box. Since he's one of the sponsors, since Kane's one of the sponsors, he gets a suite at PonziScheme.com arena. That's literally what they call the arena, and I completely agree. And I completely agree with that title. But yeah, so yeah, it's so funny. So then the device is activated. So so there's a bit where Hawking has to like fight all these people. So he starts beating up a bunch of kids who are trying to attack him. And Frank fights his way through and is able to like catch Kane and defeat him. And Frank convinces Beth to not kill like Kane. So yeah, so Frank's name is clear. Now he's technically under investigation by internal affairs due to like some of his controversial actions. So yeah, and then yeah, and that's it for the movie. I thought this was a really good comedy. This was very funny, very much in the style of the old like Naked Gun movies. Like there's some funny humor. The snowman thing was insane. The the man's laughter joke, the one joke at the bar where the bartender's like, "You don't know who I am. There was a you shot you shot my brother in the name of justice." He's like, Frank's like, "That could be thousands in the back. That could be hundreds." And he gives a then he gives once he gets it out, yeah, he was the white one. He's like, "Oh, you're that guy's brother." It's like it is so funny. There's definitely some offensive jokes in there. And then there's a whole bit where Kane says in his utopia you can say the word retard. I thought it was great. I was like, that seems. There's a bit where Weird Al is going to provide live music in the arcs, and he's there by himself since the plan didn't work. And then like you had Dave Bautista acting as like Liam Neeson's understudy during one bit. It was funny. But yeah, I thought this was a really good comedy, and yeah, I thought it was pretty good. It's nice to have funny movies again.
And that's it. Did y'all like the stuff I reviewed? And if you have your own opinions about all that, you can put all that in the comments. Thank you for watching, and like, subscribe, and all that. And look forward to the next video.